Intelligent men do not suffer from anxiety because they are weak. They suffer because they do not know how to turn off their own machine. If you spend the early morning hours exhausted, with a heavy body, but with your brain running at 1,000 miles an hour, pay close attention. I am not going to teach you how to meditate. I am not going to talk to you about positive thinking. I am going to show you the principle and the attitude that the Jewish elite used and still use to press the mind's off button. You think your anxiety is merely a psychological problem. It's not just that. It is a resource allocation problem. Your intellect is a sharp survival tool. It is the engine that built your wealth, your businesses, and your position. The problem: you are trying to use the energy that was designed for today to try to solve a problem that will only exist next Thursday. Before I reveal the gold to you in the form of content, go down to the comments and confess, what was the problem that stole your energy last night? Naming the chaos out loud is the first step to destroying it. Let's look at the mechanics of chaos. Your anxious mind makes a primary calculation error every day. It doesn't know the difference between a real, physical, and immediate threat and an abstract threat projected into the future. Because you are an intelligent man, your processing capacity is well above average, and that is exactly where your curse lies. Your brain is excellent at creating high-resolution simulations. When you lay your head on the pillow at 2 in the morning, in the dark and silence, your machine turns on. It opens 30 different tabs in your consciousness. It simulates the difficult meeting you are going to have. It simulates a breach of contract. It simulates the market crash. It simulates conflicts that never happened, answers you should have given, and crises that, statistically, have less than a 1% chance of becoming real. You are not preparing yourself. You are fighting ghosts in the dark, and fighting ghosts comes at a very high cost. There is a non-negotiable law in human nature. Your daily cognitive energy is finite. It is like a fuel tank. When you spend 3 hours of your early morning imagining tomorrow's worst-case scenarios, you are committing a crime against yourself, a theft of time and finite energy. You are stealing the vital energy, the clarity, and the aggression that you would need to have today to finance an illusion in the future. And when tomorrow actually arrives, when the real problem finally knocks on your door, you are exhausted. You are weak, not because the battle was hard, but because you bled to death the night before, fighting a war that only existed inside your own skull. Chronic anxiety in the high-performance man is, deep down, a silent form of arrogance. It is your ego whispering in your ear that if you just think a little more, if you worry intensely enough, you will be able to control the variables of the universe. But the only thing your worry guarantees is your own destruction from the inside out. You have become a hostage to the tool that should serve you. Your intellect does not have a clock-out time. It operates like a crazed employee who refuses to leave the factory, destroying the machinery through overuse. And modern society, with all its fragility, will look at you and say that the solution is to drink a tea, listen to calm music, or focus on your breathing. That's a lie. You don't work like that. What you need is not a sedative. What you need is a boundary of steel. You need the ruthless discipline of ancient men. Modern society looks at an exhausted man and tells him that the solution is to sit cross-legged, light incense, and focus on his breathing. They say you need mindfulness. And deep down, you know that it doesn't work for you. When you have money at risk, or when the financial structure of your company is trembling, closing your eyes and taking a deep breath won't stop the collapse. On the contrary, it makes you feel even more ridiculous and powerless. Modern wellness techniques fail miserably with high-performance men for a very simple mathematical reason. They try to calm the engine. When a machine like this is overheating, you don't try to calm the engine with positive thoughts. You cut the ignition. You need a brutal stop button, not a soft relaxation technique. And this is exactly where the wisdom of old money comes in. The elite who held great empires in their hands did not survive wars and crises with mindfulness. They operated under a mental protocol of psychological survival called Havdalah. The most direct translation for Havdalah is separation. But in the practice of the ancestral elite, it wasn't just a word, it was a tactical switch. It was the understanding that the human mind needs a non-negotiable boundary between the state of building and the state of rest. From the perspective of Havdalah, your nighttime anxiety is not an emotional weakness. It is the arrogance of believing that if you crush your own brain at 3 in the morning, you will magically alter the probability of success of the next day's meeting. Think about the absolute irrationality of this. Your body is in bed, in the dark. Your hands cannot sign contracts at this hour. Your money does not move while the banks are closed. Physically, you are completely neutralized, but your ego refuses to accept this temporary neutralization. Your ego convinces you that worrying is a form of work. It is not. It is mental hemorrhage. When you are awake in the early hours of the morning, predicting catastrophes that have not materialized, you are paying interest on a debt that does not even exist. And in the business world, paying interest on emptiness is the fastest path to bankruptcy. A mind without a closing time is not productive. It becomes a maximum security prison. To stop bleeding energy, you need to stop trying to relax and start applying separation. You need to establish the perimeter of Havdalah. We have reached the cutoff line. Pay close attention, because what I am going to explain to you now is the silent secret that separates men who build generational wealth from men who die of a heart attack at 50. At the core of ancient Jewish wisdom, long before self-help concepts or stress clinics existed, there was a relentless psychological technology, a survival protocol designed to protect a man's most valuable asset, his sanity under extreme pressure. This concept is called Havdalah. The literal translation of Havdalah is separation. Modern society has tried to package this as a mystical or religious ritual, but the pragmatic elite has always used it as a brutal tool for setting territorial boundaries. Havdalah is not a state of mind. It is a command order. It is the art of drawing an insurmountable line between the time to fight and the time to cease all operations. To understand the power of separation, you need to face your own arrogance head-on. The chaotic mind, the mind that keeps you awake in the early morning hours, is a mind that refuses to accept its own physical limits. You believe, in an unhealthy way, that you can control the outcome of tomorrow if you spend your vital energy thinking about it today. But the rule of old money dictates otherwise. A man only has authority over what his hands can touch in the present moment. Everything that is beyond the now is out of your jurisdiction. Havdalah is the physical and mental act of abdicating control over what you cannot solve today. It is the Spartan discipline of, at an exact moment in your day, lowering your weapons, looking at the battlefield of your professional life, and declaring out loud, "My mind is closed for business." I want you to feel the weight of this sentence. My mind is closed for business. This is not an apology. It is a royal decree. You are saying to your own ego, what I could do today, I did. The energy cuts off here. The ancients knew that seawater and river water should not mix, otherwise both lose their usefulness. The sacred does not mix with the profane. And in the pragmatic realm, the energy of problem-solving cannot, under any circumstances, invade the energy of your rest, your family, and your sleep. When you do not make the separation, you contaminate your refuge. You bring the war into your bedroom, and the man who sleeps in the middle of a war wakes up dead. When the sun goes down, or when you cross the threshold of your home, Havdalah demands that you declare bankruptcy on the problems of that day. What your hands could fix was fixed. The email that could be sent was sent. The negotiation that could be made was made. What is left no longer belongs to you until the sun rises again. From the moment the Havdalah switch is flipped, any thought about debts, profits, partners, or crises is classified as mental contraband. Do you think that thinking about the problem makes you more prepared? The market punishes the exhausted. The true financial elite is not made up of men who spend the night awake suffering over spreadsheets. It is made up of predators who know exactly when to retract their claws, preserve their oxygen, and sleep the sleep of the untouchable. Because they know that tomorrow the war continues, and the energy they saved today with separation will be the same energy that destroys the competition tomorrow. Self-help tells you to embrace the chaos and find peace in the middle of it. Ancient wisdom gives you a sledgehammer and tells you to build a wall. Havdalah is not about not having problems. It is about confining your problems to a specific space of time and putting a padlock on the door. Now that you understand the brutal math of separation, I am going to show you how to install this switch in your mind today. Havdalah is not an abstract concept that you read in a book and forget the next day. It is a military security protocol. It is a defense system that you execute daily to protect your empire. And the execution begins with defining a non-negotiable boundary. For separation to work, it needs an absolute physical or temporal trigger. Your mind does not obey vague intentions. Saying, "Today, I will try not to think about work," is the equivalent of saying nothing. The mind obeys clear, dry, and imperative commands. Old money used the sunset as a limit. You can use the time you close your office door, the time you close your laptop screen, or simply an alarm set on your cell phone for exactly 6 p.m. The trigger doesn't matter. What matters is the brutality of your obedience to it. The exact second that moment arrives, you are going to perform Havdalah. You are going to stop everything you are doing. You will take a single deep breath, look at your desk or into the void, and declare out loud, with the coldness and authority of someone giving an order to a subordinate, "My mind is closed for business." Do not just think this sentence in your head. Your ego needs to hear your voice decreeing the end of the workday. When you speak, you take the chaos out of the abstract world and force your biology to register a new physical reality. You are declaring the end of your territory of control for that day. From that second on, you abdicate the role of manager of the universe. But this is exactly where the real war begins. Because your ego is addicted to the chaos, cortisol, and adrenaline of constant anxiety. It will test your boundary. 10 minutes after decreeing separation, while you are having dinner or trying to sleep in the silence of your room, your mind will launch a sneak attack. It will remind you of that screen with graphs in the red. It will simulate that meeting with your problematic partner. It will whisper about the falling market or the approaching financial crisis. And this is where 99% of intelligent men fail. They try to fight the thought. They try to rationalize with their own mind. They tell themselves, "Let me think about this just a little longer. Let me predict this scenario so I can relax." The exact moment you do this, the Havdalah is broken. The enemy has invaded your sanctuary. The golden rule of separation is relentless. From the moment the line is crossed at the end of the day, any thought about business, corporate problems, or financial projections becomes classified as mental contraband. Think of your mind as a high-security border. What do the guards do with contraband? They do not examine it. They do not sit down to debate it. They confiscate and discard it immediately. When the thought tries to invade, do not feel angry. Anger is just another way of giving energy to the problem. Just acknowledge the thought, look at it clinically and coldly, and apply the barcode of separation. Say to yourself, "This is tomorrow's problem. The store is closed." And shift your focus to the present moment with brute force. Do not feed the monster with your attention. Your brain will try to convince you that forgetting the problem for a few hours is a dangerous irresponsibility. Your own intellect will call you negligent. It will say that if you don't plan for the disastrous scenario now, you will be completely destroyed tomorrow morning. It is a tactical lie. It is the despair of an addict begging for their dose of anxiety. The implementation of this switch will require an almost psychopathic discipline from you in the first few days. You will have to police your mind like a tyrant. If you have to expel invading thoughts 50 times on the first night, you will do it 50 times. without hesitating, without negotiating. With every thought confiscated and thrown out of your field of vision, your mind will learn that crying no longer works. It will understand that there is a new master in the house, and the discipline of not thinking requires much more strength and mental brutality than the discipline of thinking. The anxious man is an eternal slave to tomorrow. He works for free for a future that consumes him from the inside, even before it arrives. But the man who masters the art of separation, the man who applies Havdalah with an iron fist, is the absolute master of the now. When you learn to turn off your intellect through sheer willpower, a brutal transformation happens in your biology and in your business. You stop bleeding energy in the dark. You stop being prey to your own mind and return to being the predator that the market demands you to be. Think about what happens when the sun rises the next day. The man who calls himself intelligent, but who spent the entire night simulating tragedies and financial crises, wakes up with a completely empty fuel tank. He enters the meeting room already defeated. His decisions are based on fear, haste, and exhaustion. But you who flipped the switch, you who had the audacity to declare that your mind was closed for business the night before, you wake up with your arsenal intact. You have clarity. You have aggression. You have the coldness of a sniper, ready to destroy any real problem that dares to cross your office door. Old money did not survive the fall of empires and global financial crises because they worried more than others. They survived because they respected the preservation of their own energy. They knew that tomorrow's war demands today's relentless rest. Your intellect is a lethal weapon, and a weapon that is never holstered ends up shooting its own owner in the leg. Before we seal this code, make a purely logical move. Pressing the subscribe button on this channel costs absolutely nothing from your wealth and takes none of your energy, but it helps immensely to keep this structure of wisdom alive. If you want to continue shielding your mind and your empire with the math that the elite does not teach on stages, join us. Starting tonight, your reality is different. You will no longer lay your head on the pillow to solve corporate chaos. You will lay down to turn off the machine. And so that your own ego understands that the rule has changed, I want you to make a decree right now. Go down to the comments and write only this phrase: "The store is closed."